saying? Like, that's the anxiety that comes with the possibilities of, fear of going back if I'm free. Like, will I live in this world okay? I've been in this place for so long.
Okay. Here's the thing again. I got a few that just came in. Check this out. This is what we're talking about this morning. In my meditation this morning, or I won't even say it was like my meditation, I heard God say to me, He was explaining to me about how liberation was the word I heard. Liberation. And what he was talking to me about, he was saying, if there are some things that you've gone through, like in life or however, if freedom presented itself to you, would you take it? Would you take it? So the analogy that the Lord has given me was, okay, you're in a cage. Someone approaches the cage. You don't see key in their hand at all, but they approach the cage. What is your actual thought? One of the Toya said that her thought was like the identification of it, to identify like, okay, are they going to let me out or however. But then the second analogy is if you see someone come into the gate and they have the precise key, you're in cage 1 and the key in their hand says cage 1, the precise key of cage 1, and they're coming to the door. What's your take on it? How do you respond? What do you do? Sharika said that there was a level of nervousness or an anxiety that she could feel, as if like even talking about it, she could feel it because it was like, I've been in this place for so long. So what do I do? How do I even know freedom? This is truth this morning talking, y'all. This is actual truth because this is what's happening. This is what's going on. The Lord said to me, He said, it's this freedom. We're not getting this freedom. We're not catching this freedom that the Lord is presenting. And so in these analogies, I want you to really be honest about your position in it. I'm talking about really tell the truth about what your position would be. You're in a cage. All of us was born into a cage because we was born into sin, shaping it into iniquity. Sin, it just was our portion. It's those fig leaves. So being in the cage, someone comes up to the cage, they don't have a key in their hand. That's the natural person. That's us with each other. How do you approach it? I really want to talk about this morning because I sense a major breakthrough at hand, like a real major breakthrough at hand. The person that you don't see the key in their hand because no human has the ability to free you. But when they come up to the gate, what is the approach that you take? What is the approach? What do you think you feel? Picture yourself in the cage. What do you feel? What do you think your emotion would be? Oh God, I hope they come to open the door for me. Or is the emotion, just to sit there, maybe like how the animals do at the zoo. They've become so accustomed to being in that position that they just sit there and allow you to look at them. But they don't make any movement or any gesture to show that I want freedom, that I want out of here. What is the approach? Or do you give all that you have to the individual that come up with no key? So now when the gatekeeper comes with the key, you're exhausted. Where y'all at this morning? Let's talk about it. It's a major breakthrough at hand.
As we talk about it, when you say the natural and the spiritual part, it's like that I'm trusting more in the natural eye than the spiritual eye.
Well, you gotta.
It's like a lack of trust somewhere.
It's an identification. You got to identify yourself. I'm not placing anybody today. You're placing yourself. But this is where honesty comes out. This is where honesty kicks in.
That's what I was saying. Like speaking for myself.
So he comes with, you got the two analogies, because when people come into our lives, as much as we would like for them to be, all of this and all of that, we use these little cliches, my knight in shining armor and all this little type of stuff. But as much as we would like, they really don't possess the key. They really don't possess the key. Now, they can come to the gate, and there are certain things that they can do, like at the gate. Like, for instance, when you think about it at the zoo, they go to the gate, they pet the animals, they make the animals feel like, they're paid attention to. They are cared for. We're here to see you. Oh, that's a pretty little monkey, or whatever the case may be. But they don't have the authority to open that gate. So who is it where should the desire sit? Where should the desire for the freedom actually rest? Do you rest it in the visitors? Or do you rest it in the gatekeeper, the one with the key?
The gatekeeper, the one with the key.
But do we do that?
No. Some stuff.
I guess because you ask yourself, gatekeeper, you done had this key all this time, why you ain't been came to let me out?
See, that's the kind of mentality. See, all of that right now, every bit of that right now is what causes blocks. Every bit of that natural, that carnal mentality, that questioning is what causes the freedom to not come and to be expressed as it should. The questioning. Well, why haven't you been? Let me out. Maybe it's because this is a place of safety for you. You're not missing anything. You are let out. You're not constantly kept in. But because it doesn't come to, it's not the way you would think. Now you've allowed yourself to go into this suppression or this depressed, oppressed mentality, because it's not the way you think that it should be. You think that you should be able to roam free all the time, not realizing that there is danger if you're able to roam free all the time. There are people there with guns that would be a threat to you just as much as feeling like you are a threat to them. So what if it's a place of safety?
I've taken my safety for granted.
It comes from a lack of trust. An unwillingness to literally bring oneself under submission is where it comes from. See, I want you to think about, let's go into the question that Sharika just asked. Let's think about that for a second. It was literally well, if you've been had this key, why didn't you, why haven't you been let me out? See, that's a challenging of authority to say, I know it better. I know it better. Which,
it kind of feels like, to me, like all these people done walked up to the cage faster. All these different people done passed me in my life. I've been looking for my answer so long, and then my answer comes. I'm like, where you been? I've been looking for you.
But the answer has a precise time to show up. God shows up in people's life at a precise time. Remember, you can't come until he draw you. That's the reason why I don't. That's why.
You ain't see me hurting. You ain't see what they did to me. You know, you ain't see what I went through.
At the appointed time.
Yeah.
At the appointed time, the gatekeeper came. At the appointed time. So now the gatekeeper has to be pretty much punished for these things that came from other hands. I want y'all to think about that, because this is what actually happens. Have y'all ever heard folks lash out at God? Why you let that happen to me? Why you didn't do this? Where were you? Not realizing that there is an appointed time. If you go back to scripture, in the very beginning, God met with Adam and Eve in what? The cool of the day, the evening, right? So ask the question, well, where was God all of the morning? Where was God in the afternoon? He only showed up in the evening time because there were responsibilities that they had to carry out. And it also teaches you that God doesn't micromanage. That's why I don't like micromanagement. He gave assignments and he went on about his way, and he came back at the time to deal with them, to fellowship with them. You'll see that all through scripture, where he gave the talents to the people and then he left. Where the situation with the lamp and the oil, he gave the stuff to them and then he left. So he doesn't micromanage. But he does say this: occupy till I come. He says that. Occupy till I come. So what's being done with the time? So if you say, well, been waiting for freedom to come to me, but then when freedom shows up, you lash out at freedom. Where you been? Why? And freedom got the key in his hand. The key that says cage 1 in his hand. What y'all got to say?
Made me feel real small because the mindset was so challenged, and then he had to take all that to explain himself when all I had to do was give in.
And just let the man open the cage. If you're hungry, you haven't had anything to eat, and someone shows up with some food, what is the most logic thing to do? Argue about the fact of why you just got here, or go ahead and satisfy your hunger?
Eat.
The Spirit of the Lord said to me this morning that we're not eating. And it's costing us. That's the reason why there are many that are being drawn back into things, because they're not accepting the freedom. Any questions, any comments? I know it's thought-provoking. Any questions? What?
I need $20 so I can stop. It brings me back to how one day me and Sharika was talking. It's like we was praying for different things to take place, and then when it do take place, we be sitting there looking like, oh God, what we supposed to do with this? So it's like you pray to God